Welcome to our Keeping Yourself Safe Online webinar, Know Your Cyber Fraud and Scam Risks. My name is Joe Cooksey. I'm Head of Digital for Specialist Client Solutions. Today we're going to cover off the following areas. Why should cybercrime matter to me? Social engineering and what you need to know. We'll look at the common types of cyber threats you may face as a business. And at the end, we'll look at the steps you can take to help protect yourself and your business. Now, we're going to start with a statistic. Your business is 9 times more likely to be a victim of cybercrime than a burglary. This stat was taken from a YouGov survey in April 2019. So why should cybercrime matter to you? What should make you care? Well, 32% of UK businesses identified cybersecurity breaches or attacks in 2019, and 19% of businesses had staff stop from doing their daily work due to cyber attacks. Only 33% of businesses have cybersecurity policies, and phishing attacks against staff remain the most common cyber attacks. And finally, only 20% of staff receive any kind of cyber training. So let's have a look at the key threats out there for your business. We're going to look at 3 specifically now. The first one is phishing and spear phishing. Phishing is sending out emails en masse to a large number of people. A fake email hoping that someone will do something with that. According to the government Cybersecurity Breaches Survey 2019, 80% of businesses surveyed experienced breaches or attacks related to phishing. Spear phishing is taking information that you have found out about your victim before you have sent the email and targeting that email against an organization or individual. Worryingly, spear phishing attacks are far more successful. A large percentage of the links in spear phishing emails are clicked on. Next, we have malicious software. It's the second key threat to your business. There are many types of malicious software out there. They can take over your computer, watch what you type on your computer screen, or even steal information from you. We'll go into detail about specific software or malware later. The next and final threat that we're going to look at is impersonation fraud. This is where an imposter will fraudulently request a payment purporting to be from someone else or someone from your business. So how do you go about protecting yourself from these types of attacks? The best way to do that is to understand what the cybercriminal or hacker is trying to do. So we're going to have a look at the 4 stages of the cyber attack now. The first one is the survey stage. This is where the hacker is researching you or your business, trying to find vulnerabilities and take advantage of your weaknesses. When they identify them, then it's time to move on to stage 2. Stage 2 is the phase when they deliver their actual attack. Once they've made it through your defenses, then have achieved stage 3. They have successfully now breached your defense. They're in. This is where they will sit there and patiently wait until they find the right time to effect their attack on you, which takes us to the final stage. On average, in 2019, it took businesses 279 days to identify a data breach. This is partly because the cybercriminals will want to make sure that they can have the maximum impact, either disruptive impact on you or make the maximum money they can out of you as a victim. These are carefully planned and calculated attacks. Now we're going to have a little look at social engineering and what you need to know. So what is the criminal trying to take advantage of? Greed, urgency, authority, and fear. Greed or offers. Phishing emails often dangle a financial reward of some kind if you click a link or enter your login information. If an email offers you something that seems too good to be true, then it probably is. We struggle to resist opening that email attachment, which promises so much. Urgency. If an email provides a strict deadline for performing an action, be suspicious. Phishing emails will try to fluster recipients by creating a sense of urgency. We make the worst decisions under stress and time pressure. Authority. People naturally follow authority, and phishers take advantage of this by sending emails that come from a common source of authority to generate panic. We tend to comply with authority rather than follow our conscience. And finally, fear. Scaring recipients is a common tactic in phishing emails. Emails that threaten you with negative consequences or punishment should be treated with suspicion. We tend to be loss averse and will seek to avoid a negative consequence. We're now going to have a look at the key types of social engineering. The first one is phishing, A phishing email is an email purporting to be from a genuine organisation in order to get you to act on the email by clicking on links, opening attachments, or making payments, or to get you to give away personal information. Next is vishing or voice phishing. Unfortunately, phishing emails are not the only way people can try to fool you into providing personal information in an effort to steal your identity or commit fraud. Fraudsters also use the phone to solicit your personal information. Phishing relies on social engineering techniques to trick you into providing information that others can use to access and use your important accounts. People can also use this information to assume your identity and open up new accounts. Finally, we have smishing. This stands for SMS phishing and is a text version of the phishing email. The text message will appear to come from an organisation you deal with and may ask you to click on a link or to pay money or to give away personal information, or finally, get you to call a premium rate number. Remember, Barclays will never ask you to move money from or to a safe account or to share your passcodes or PINs with us. If you get an email or text that claims to be from us, but it looks suspicious, please forward it, along with any attachments, if possible, to internetsecurity@barclays.com. We're going to have a more detailed look at the 3 different types of social engineering now. First, we're going to have a look at is phishing. Phishing attacks are still the most popular entry point for cyber criminals to land their attacks. So why do fraudsters send out these emails? Well, there's 3 main reasons. The first one is to get paid money. The second one is to get you to click on a fake link that you think is a legitimate one, which takes you to a website you think is genuine. So you proceed to fill in login details or personal information, and now the cyber criminal has that information and can use it against you to take over your account or to attack you. And the third reason is that you click on a link and it downloads malicious software onto your computer. When an email is asking us to do any form of action, so for example, clicking on a link, opening an attachment, or asking for us to make a payment, we need to implement checks before we take action. The first step is to slow down the pace, giving yourself time to check before you react. The second step is to ensure that the email address and the details are correct, because cyber criminals can do what's known as spoof an email. They'll take a known email address and they'll make subtle changes, either adding a character, removing a character, or changing it from .co.uk to .com. It's also possible to completely spoof an email address, so you must never trust any email that you receive. Then you need to look at what it's asking you to do. If there's a link in the email, then you need to hover over the link before you click on it. It will pop up on your screen and show you actually where the link is taking you. If you don't trust it, don't click on it. The example here on 4, if you hover over the business, it comes up with malicious link .co.uk. So what does a phishing email look like? Well, first of all, a colleague receives an email proposing to be a legitimate institution, requiring them to click on a link in order to complete an urgent action. Then the scammer is able to spoof a legitimate email address, leading the colleague to believe the email is legitimate. The user is redirected to a bogus page, which appears exactly like the genuine site. The attacker monitoring the page requests some sensitive information from you, such as your passwords, PIN entry code, and bank details. Once the process is complete, the attacker can then use that sensitive information for their advantage. Next, we're going to have a look at vishing. So voice phishing attacks take advantage of the fact that it's easy to spoof phone numbers. So please don't trust the number that shows up on your phone when you receive a call. Example of this type of attack are a phone call with fraudsters pretending to be either from a bank, the HMRC, or a large business, asking for passcodes, PIN numbers, verification codes, or personal information. The second example is a phone call with the fraudster pretending to be from the fraud department or from the police, saying that it's a fraud occurring on your account. They try and make you transfer funds to a safe account whilst they investigate. Then they may even know some information about the account to dupe you in further. Always be aware that when you receive a call and you don't know the person on the other end of the line, that you should not trust them. If you are in any doubt or there are any questions that you have, end the call and call back on a known number. So here's another example of a phishing attack. A colleague receives a call from whom they believe to be their bank. The phishing scammer is able to spoof a legitimate phone number, and they can manipulate the caller display, leading the colleague to believe that his call is legitimate. The scammer hopes to create a sense of panic by telling the colleague that there's a fraud going on and that provokes an action that doesn't have logical thinking. Typically, then they'll require some form of payment, which is either transferring money and you believe that it's to a known source. And once the money's transferred, before you've realised, it will have disappeared with little hope of recovery. Finally, we're going to have a look at smishing. Smishing is very similar to phishing emails that we saw before. Fraudsters send you a text message pretending to be from an organisation that you deal with, such as your bank. They use software that can manipulate where the text appears to come from, even getting it to appear in the text feed from that organisation. Generally, the fraudsters will either get you to click on a link, which will take you to a site that looks genuine, and then you'll fill in your personal details, which you've then obviously given to the fraudster. Or they get you to ring a number where you think you're ringing the genuine organisation, but you're in fact ringing the fraudster and supplying them with information that they need. So here's an example of smishing. A colleague receives a text posing as a legitimate institution, requiring them to click on it. The scammer is able to spoof a legitimate phone number, which leads the colleague to believe that the text is legitimate. The user is redirected to a bogus page, which is appearing exactly the same as the genuine site. The attacker monitoring the page requests sensitive information, such as passwords, PIN entry codes, or bank account details. And then once that's completed, the attacker can use that sensitive information to their advantage. How to avoid social engineering attacks. So in summary, these are quite simple cyber hygiene practices that can help you to avoid social engineering attacks. The first one is never reveal personal or financial data, including usernames, passwords, PINs, or ID numbers. Remember that a bank or other reputable organisation will never ask you for this information or for you to move money from your account, whether this is by email, call, or text message. Do not assume a caller is genuine because they have some basic information about you or your account, and don't trust caller ID. It can be manipulated to display a genuine looking number. Don't allow remote access to your computer. Barclays will never ask you to do this. If you receive such a call, hang up and call the Barclays fraud team. And do not open email attachments from an unknown source. Do not readily click on links in emails from unknown sources. Instead, roll your mouse pointer over the link to reveal its true destination. This will be displayed at the bottom left corner of your screen or underneath your mouse pointer. Beware if this is different from what is displayed in the text. Now we're going to have a look at some common cyber threats. The first we're going to look at is impersonation fraud. Impersonation fraud is costing businesses a lot of money. Two of the most commonly reported attacks from our business clients to our fraud team are invoice fraud and CEO fraud. Invoice fraud is where a cyber criminal will send a fake invoice hoping that you will pay it. Often they have done an awful lot of research prior to sending this invoice and will time it at the time which gives them the maximum chance of having success. So how do you decipher the difference between a genuine invoice versus a fraudulent one? Well, the red flag should be any change of details, especially sort codes and account numbers. You must always verbally confirm with a known individual in the business sending the invoice any changes of payment details, or if it's an instruction you've received for the first time, those details must be approved before payment is sent. You must make a call using a number that you have on file or that you've sourced from somewhere other than the invoice itself. Next, CEO fraud. So CEO fraud is often instigated using social engineering, and successful frauds of this type can lead to significant losses. This is where the cyber criminal will take control of a senior leader's email or spoof the senior leader's email, then send an email request that requests a payment to be made urgently. It's essential that any internal payment request is verbally checked. The sort code, the account number, and the amount before it's sent out. Impersonation fraud isn't a new type of attack. It's just been enabled by cyber. And this means that attacks are more frequent and more complex. The process is key to spotting and preventing this type of attack. For internal payment requests, never transfer funds before you have verbally confirmed the sort code, account number, and amount with the person sending the request. And for invoice or change of payment details, then you should confirm the account details with a known contact in that business. If you do not have a known contact, then call them on a known number, not the number on the invoice. You can also send a test payment and get confirmation that it has been received as well. Also, make sure that all of your staff know the process, as we see an increase in this type of attacks during the holiday periods when the person who normally owns this process is out of the business. Next, we're going to have a look at malicious software, starting with ransomware. Ransomware is a type of malware that allows cybercriminals to lock your computer or particular files on your computer. The cybercriminals will then send you a message which tells you that in order to gain access back, you need to pay the cybercriminal. So they're holding your business to ransom, hence the name. So what happens in a ransomware attack? Well, a colleague receives a phishing email, and it's designed a file that they would trust and click on to download an attachment, actually causes the ransomware to download. Then once it's downloaded, it has the ability to take over the victim's computer. If the ransomware has built-in social engineering tools, it also tricks users to allow administrative access. Following this, users are presented with a message that explains their files are now inaccessible. The files will only be decrypted if the victim sends an untraceable Bitcoin payment. The next piece of malware that we're going to look at is Trojans. So this type of attack is where a cybercriminal will hide a malicious file or software to a seemingly harmless file or program, and once opened, it will get inside your systems. This can allow then the cybercriminal to alter files, change screens, access your files, and even use your computer to attack other computers. So a colleague would receive an email again, designed to look like a file that they trust, and click on the attachment, which causes the Trojan to download. Once it's downloaded, it has the ability to either take over your computer, affecting multiple files. It also has the ability to send important information from your computer to the hacker. The owner of the virus now has the ability to control your computer, slowing your system activity or causing your machine to crash. So how do you go about protecting yourself from malicious software? Well, the first step is to be prepared. Make sure that you back up regularly, update software regularly, and have antivirus or anti-spyware software and a firewall. Secondly, be aware of the risks. Be careful when you click on links. Limit the use of removable devices as well. And thirdly, make sure that everyone is aware of the risks and how to mitigate against them. Next, we're going to have a look at public Wi-Fi. So information that you send over a public Wi-Fi, like in a coffee shop or a hotel, can be collected or intercepted by cybercriminals. If this information is not encrypted, then login details, passwords, emails, and other important information can be read and even changed. So when on public Wi-Fi, be aware of those risks. If you wouldn't have the conversation in public, then don't send it in public. And finally, think before you send information. Treat all Wi-Fi links with suspicion. Don't just assume that the Wi-Fi link is legitimate. It could be bogus, that has been set up by a cybercriminal trying to capture valuable personal information from an unsuspecting user. Try to verify it's a legitimate Wi-Fi connection. Some bogus Wi-Fis that have been set up by malicious users will have a connection name that's deliberately similar to the coffee shop, hotel, or venue that's offering the free Wi-Fi. You can always check with an employee if you're not sure. Always use a VPN, a virtual private network. So by using a VPN, when you connect to a public Wi-Fi, you'll be effectively using a private tunnel that encrypts all of your data that passes through the network. This can help prevent cyber criminals that are lurking on the network from intercepting your data. Also, avoid using specific types of website. It's a good idea to avoid logging into websites where there's a chance that the cyber criminals could capture your identity, passwords, or personal information. These sites, such as social networking sites, online banking services, or any websites that store your credit information. Also consider using your mobile phone. If you need to access any websites that store or require the input of sensitive information, then it might be worth connecting them via your mobile phone network instead of a public Wi-Fi connection. Next, we're going to have a little look at passwords. So how secure is your password? As you can see on screen, I'm bringing up 3 of the top 5 lists of easy to remember and easy to hack passwords from 2019. These have come from breaches or hacks where passwords have been stolen and then published. So let's have a look at some of these. Obviously, The most popular ones are very easy to type on a keyboard, like 123456 or QWERTY, or even using password as a password. The most popular name is Ashley for passwords, and the most popular fictional character is Superman. If one of your passwords is here, I would suggest perhaps it was time for you to change it. So what do you need to think about when setting up a password? 2 steps are better than 1. Having a strong password is really important. Make sure that it's made up of uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. The longer the password is, the harder it is to compromise. So wherever possible, use over 12 characters, and for your most important passwords, 16 is recommended by the National Cybersecurity Centre. Make sure that you have a different password for every account. If you don't do this, then if one of your accounts is compromised, the hacker has access to any account with the same password. Finally, make sure that you use 2-factor authentication whenever possible. 2-factor authentication means that you have a second verification step, such as a code generator or a text with a code. We're going to have a little bit more of a look at that now. So what is multi-factor authentication? Well, multi-factor authentication is the introduction of additional authentication steps when logging into an account or confirming an action. It uses 3 types of authentication, and 2 or more of these 3 must be used in order to successfully complete your activity. The 3 types of authentication are knowledge. This is something that only you should know. This could be a password, passphrase, PIN, or secret answer to a question. The second is possession. This is something that only you have. Your phone or a wearable device, or a token that you have possession of. The token could be a code generator on your phone or standalone. And finally, inherence. This is something you are. It could be your fingerprint, voice pattern, or facial recognition. By requiring 2 different of these 3 types of authentication methods to authenticate a login or activity, it makes it far harder for criminals to pretend to be you. Actions you can take. So what do you need to think about when it comes to protecting yourself? Well, there are actions you can take at each step of the 4 stages of the cyber attack to make sure you're helping protect yourself and your business. At the survey phase, it's all about education. Just like this webinar you're attending today, take advantage of any education you can to make sure your staff are aware of the latest threats. It's really the best way to protect yourself at this stage. During the delivery phase, it's all around having good, strong password policies. We've already looked at why it's important to have strong passwords. Have secure configuration. That's setting up your software and devices to make sure you only have access to the facilities that you need. For example, if you have some sharing functionality you don't need, then turn it off. Always have good and up-to-date malicious software protection as well. At the breach stage, you can still pick up someone that has been successful and they've broken through your defenses. You can do this by monitoring your logs, looking for strange activity, also patching your software. So patches are issued to software when the developers have made an improvement and or they've found a security flaw in their software. As soon as they've published a patch, it makes it public, and then it's easy for cyber criminals to reverse engineer and find any potential weaknesses. So the quicker you patch, the better it is for you. User training is also important so that your team can identify abnormal activity and then know who to report it to. And if someone does make a mistake and accidentally click on a link or attachment or open an email, a quick report is key so the action can be taken quickly to combat any mistakes. Having a good network defense is really important, like having a strong firewall. And again, secure configuration is also really important. Are your databases accessible to everyone? Do you have different security for the different databases you have? For example, is your HR database accessible to your sales team? Do they need access to this? If they don't allow it. This way, you're mitigating the risks. With user access, make sure that when people leave your business, they have their access removed. Make sure people only have access if they need it and don't let them into areas that they don't need to be in. Finally, at the effect phase, it's all about having controls in place to continue your business, creating solid contingency plans to ensure the least impacts on the back of the cyber attack. This is where ensuring you have backups of your data is key, and also make sure the backups work. Let's have a look now at the 10 steps to cybersecurity. This is some basic guidance issued by the government. Give you 10 areas to look at to make sure that as an organisation, you're as robust as you can be. First one is user education and awareness. Educate all your employees, no matter what their level or role. Second one is network security. Avoid connecting to untrusted networks. Third is monitoring. Constantly monitor inbound and outbound traffic. Fourth, malware protection. Ensure that you have the most up-to-date version of your chosen software. 5, information risk management. Embed an information risk management regime across your organization. 6, incident management. Establish an incident response and disaster recovery plan. 7, manage user privileges. Do they need to have that access? 8, secure configuration. Remove or disable unnecessary functionality. 9, home and mobile working. Protect data using an appropriately configured virtual private network. And finally, number 10, removable media controls. Limit removable devices such as USB devices. So what support is available to you as a business? Here at Barclays, we've been working really closely with the National Cybersecurity Centre, who work towards enhancing the UK cyber resilience. They've created the CISP, which is the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Partnership. It's an online platform made up of IT and cyber experts, as well as over 8,000 businesses. The purpose of the platform is to share in real time the latest information with all the users in order to increase overall situational awareness of the cyber threats and therefore reduce the impact on UK businesses. There's also an accreditation, Cyber Essentials. It's nationally recognised certificate. It establishes that you take care of your security seriously and are stood up to resilience checks carried out by a professional body. And finally, we have training within Barclays as well called Digital Wings. This is a free learning platform created by Barclays, made up of bite-sized modules on all things digital, including modules on cybersecurity. I mentioned that we work closely with the National Cybersecurity Centre. I'm now going to give you a bit more detail of what support's available from them. The National Cybersecurity Centre supports the most critical organisations in the UK, the wider public sector, industry, SMEs, as well as the general public. When incidents do occur, they provide effective incident response to minimise harm to the UK, help with recovery, and learn lessons for the future. They are supporting a cyber aware campaign aimed at raising the level of cyber robustness for individuals. There are 6 simple steps, and they are having a separate email password, having a password made up of 3 random words, saving non-essential passwords to your browser if you have sole access to your computer or phone, turning on 2-factor authentication whenever it is possible, updating your devices regularly, and backing up your data. You can find out more about this campaign at www.ncsc.gov.uk/cyberaware/home. The NCSC website also has a huge amount of support material available for all types of businesses. We've highlighted some of the key ones on the screen here. If you'd like to find out more about them, then just press pause now. What do you need to do if you want to report a cybercrime? Well, whether you're a victim of an attack or even had an attempted attack against you, we encourage you to report as much as you can. Action Fraud is the police's internet crime reporting unit, and it's been set up to help tackle the UK cybercrime. So you should report all frauds there. If the crime's ongoing, you can also report it to your local force. And if it's a fraud that relates to your banking, then please let your fraud department know as soon as possible. You can also report phishing attacks that pretend to be from Barclays to internet security at barclays.co.uk. So let's summarise. Remember, have strong passwords and wherever possible use 2-factor authentication. Make sure that all your software is up to date. Don't trust any link, attachment, text or number, and make sure that you verify them. Have a process in place in your business for all payments and make sure that everybody knows the process. And take steps to make sure that you and all your team are aware of the risks and steps they can take to help protect your business. And remember, Barclays will not ask for your PIN sentry codes, PINs, or security credentials. You can check that a number that's calling you is genuine before you call them back through our phone number checker, which is at www.barclays.co.uk/phone-number-lookup. Everything we've talked about today that mentions other links has been summarised on this page. Once again, if you'd like to explore them any further, then please press pause now. All that remains is for me to thank you for your time today. If you would like to stay in contact with us, then we are on social media. On Twitter, we're at Barclays Biz Chat, and we're at Barclays Business UK on Facebook and LinkedIn. Thank you ever so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.